You are now listening to
Chakras and Shotguns. All right, reporting live.
Yeah, reporting live. So
November the 6th.
yeah, I think yesterday Jen and I were recording an episode well before polls were closing.
Yeah.
We had a lot of hope.
Yeah.
But as a lot of people, I'm sure, are experiencing, there's a lot of emotions right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're recording this live, as well as recording it for YouTube and for the podcast. And yeah, Kamala, has.
Oh, child,
I know, they got me.
Already, Lord.
Kamala has given her concession speech. And so Jen and I just thought it would be important to kind of stop from our regularly scheduled programming and just have a moment and talk to folks about how we're feeling, how we're planning to cope with everything that's going on. So yeah, that was just the impetus for hopping on right now.
That was a beautiful intro, Nicholas. I did not have it in me to give any of that. So I appreciate you doing
of course.
that. I'll jump in.
Mm-hmm.
I should have just went to bed last night.
Yeah.
And shortly before, I was paying attention to the Electoral College, and it was looking very close. Like, Trump was very close to getting the 270 that he needed. Yeah. And then I got on social media. Another very big mistake. And it spun me out. But I was like, all right, I'm just going to calm down. Mm-hmm. It's, it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to look into it or just like freak out. I need to go to bed. Yeah. However, the damage was already done. So I was up at 5:15. Mm-hmm. Looked it up, saw the results, and immediately burst into tears. Now, we don't normally talk about politics, not in that way on the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have not picked up what we putting down about how we feel about certain things.
It's pretty clear, I'd say. Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
This is not the way we wanted this shit to go. I'm just going to be very frank, very honest.
For sure.
I saw that they pronounced him the winner, and I burst into tears. We have 2 daughters. I myself am a woman. Mm-hmm. We don't know if the door is closed for us with respect to having children. Mm-hmm. And this decision has put my life on the line and my daughter's lives on the line. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand how someone could make that choice.
Yeah.
That women could vote and make that choice. Mm-hmm. Women are dying because of conservative policies.
Yeah.
Like flat out dying. If I am pregnant with a child that me and Mick desperately want, and I have any type of complications, if I am in the wrong state or if they pass a federal abortion ban, I could die.
Yeah.
And it's not a hypothetical because women have died.
Yeah, it's happened.
And that's one policy that's insane, right? That's one policy where people are going to die because of what these people have decided is the way that they want to run the country. Mm-hmm. And that's just one of them. And so it was stunning and scary and frightening. And I'm in disbelief in a lot of ways. You're talking about very triggering as a Black woman to see a Black woman who was so exceptionally qualified, and this man wasn't qualified to shine her shoes. Mm-hmm. And still people lined up in droves to make this type of decision. The concepts of American exceptionalism, the concepts of patriotism are offensive to me. because the people who claim to be the biggest patriots and to love America the most went and made that decision, education is at risk, healthcare is at risk, the environment is at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's so clear to me, it almost makes you feel gaslit as to I'm being over dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
But they've told us who they were all along.
Yeah.
And it is a betrayal to everyone. It's not just marginalized communities anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've betrayed everyone. Mm-hmm. Globally,
yeah.
You're talking about Palestinians. That's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's done. And so that's how I was initially feeling this morning, trying to get our kids ready to send them off to school in a world that I don't even know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I feel you. I think I had a lot of sadness, a lot of shock, kind of went through, it's almost like the stages of grief, right? Where you're disbelief, you're angry, you're sad. And I think what I've tried to do without, I guess, at the risk of doing spiritual bypassing, is to try to contextualize it in the space of this kind of spiritual journey that we're on, right? That we've been going on 5 years now from a spiritual standpoint, and a lot of the things we talked about on the show with regard to things like time and free will and the idea that nothing happens by accident, right? Mm-hmm. That we, without getting too much into like the reincarnation stuff, but like there's this idea that we chose to be here at this time and in this moment. And so I had to, at the same time, hold space for my emotions, but not get so devastated that I lost sight of kind of some of these principles that I think are really important to me.
Yeah.
And trying to, I guess, remind myself that this was always going to happen, right? Like this was part of what was going to play out in this reality, in this timeline, in this lifetime that I'm here for. And so I'm still processing it. I'm still trying to figure out what this means for me, particularly as a light worker and as a healer, and how I can show up for people, because I know this is going to produce, some relatively dark times. And, I spent a lot of time today in meditation and going into the Akashic Records. And what I saw very vividly was this image of a forest fire. Mm. And if you know much about how fire operates in the natural world, right? It clears away things that are rotting, dead, old, and makes way for new growth, for things to be nourished by the ash that is produced by those things that have been burned away, so that there can be new things that come about. And so I was there with you. I was very emotional this morning, but I think over the course of the day, I have been evolving how I feel and kind of thinking about what this means next steps wise, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel like you have a much better handle, or I feel like you ended up coming to an easier, not easy, but just like a better, like, of wrapping your arms around it.
Yeah, but I don't want to invalidate your feelings. I think everything you're feeling is true and real.
Yeah.
And it matters. And it is, I think, our role, particularly as I've been meditating about my purpose a lot. And I think there are a lot of spiritual folks who I love who can speak about things in a very ethereal, esoteric way that can be hard for people who are our peers to follow, right? And when I mean by our peers, people who kind of grew up in a more traditional religious background, who are quote unquote in the matrix, in the 3D world, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And don't necessarily have the same affinity for some of these spiritual concepts. And so I think for you and I, we're meant to be sort of like a translator or like a bridge for those folks, right? So you experiencing and me even earlier this morning being in those feelings that a lot of our folks are feeling, it allows us to be able to kind of be relatable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So don't only discount what you're feeling.
No, I'm not discounting what I'm feeling. I'm not discounting what I'm feeling. I'm more so saying that and this is something that I not struggle with, but is a challenge for me sometimes, is that doctrine of like, I came here to experience this moment, this trauma, this bad event, this loss, this grief, and whatever, today it's an election, right? Sure. But it might be the death of a loved one or something super traumatic or something like that. And sometimes, and I think that's because of my limited human understanding of how all of this works and how time plays out and all of those things. And so sometimes it's hard for me when I'm like, especially as a millennial.
Yeah.
Someone was like, oh, yeah, millennials have had it bad since 9/11. And somebody's like, baby, we've had it bad since Columbine. Yeah. Like shootings and terrorist attacks and economy crashes and like the state of the country and more globally the world just getting worse and worse and worse and more nefarious and more evil and more corrupt. And like the idea sometimes that my soul was like, yeah, Birdman Hamburg, like sign me up for that.
You like reality TV, so this is basically just
baby, I like to watch it from the distance. I want to see it from afar. Sometimes that can be difficult.
For sure.
I'm going to be very honest, and y'all might want to give me a tinfoil hat. I do not care. Remember, we had Pooja on the show.
Yep.
And doing an astrological forecast. She didn't say.
She didn't say either way. She said
who
both,
was going to win.
She said both charts looked favorable.
She said both charts looked favorable. Yeah. She did, to me, outline that one person had the best interest of the country at heart, and one person was doing this for purely selfish reasons. I can give you a guess as to who was who. Yeah. But I felt very optimistic coming out of there, right? And so even yesterday, some of the astrology girlies that I follow were like, no, Kamala's going to win. Like, it's very clear. Like, her chart shows her stepping up into additional responsibility. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I already felt like she was going to have it in the bag. I felt like the response was very great for her. Like, all the kind of like things I had been following about polling.
The poll in Iowa, that was like,
and now the polling's completely thrown off. Yeah. Nobody can make heads or tails of it. All of these people who had these flawless records of predicting elections lost them overnight in big ways. Yeah.
Also, Joe Biden got 81 million votes and Kamala so far has like 67 or something like that. Like, it's a huge difference, which is weird. But I know where you're going. That's why I'm throwing that out there too.
So everything is seeming weird. Of course, I'm checking in because I was like, baby, you told me that Kamala was going to win. And I did my part. I voted, whatever. Yeah. But going back to that, all the astrological girlies and then other intuitives that I follow and trust are just like, chill. Yeah. So because this is this type of podcast, and I've told a friend of mine, and I was like, I know you think I'm insane. You think I'm cuckoo. She was like, you sound nuts.
Yeah.
But all the astrological girlies are saying it ain't over.
Yeah.
Wait maybe a month. They said it might take a month.
Look, I hear that. I understand where you're at, and I appreciate the optimism and the hope. I think for my mental health, I have to just accept that this is what it is, and then move on and move from there. Step in that space of like, okay, this is what it is. This is the reality. How can I show up in the whole space for people?
I don't think it's denial.
No, I don't think you're denial. I understand where you are with it.
Okay.
I just don't. I think for me, I emotionally cannot hop on the hope train and then have that train crash on me.
Yeah, you don't do well with that. You don't do well with that because if we rolling into an inauguration and there's Trump coins and everything, Mick's gonna be pissed. Okay, he's gonna be hot. And I'll be like, damn, I was really hoping, but shit, I guess we gotta.
I'd rather be surprised. Like, oh, that's a nice surprise.
So I think that's where I am with it. I'm really trying hard, this Instagram live notwithstanding, to stay off social media. I'm trying hard, but I'm not doing great. I'm doing good with TikTok because I don't have time for people to wax poetic about it. Twitter actually has had some very dark humor that has been.
I'm off. I'm not on it. I'm dark.
It has cheered me up a little bit. Even though that is Elon Musk's app.
Yeah.
Who's the devil? Well, let me not say that. That's not of love and light. Exactly. But yeah, I'll say this from the perspective of a healer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a conversation that we had earlier this morning and it's also a personal trigger of mine, of holding space for others who are not willing or capable to hold space for you. And so I feel things very deeply. I'm very deeply empathetic. And this is not a brag, because sometimes it is not serving me to be able to so deeply see the humanity in others.
I feel you.
In like a capitalistic type of world. But being able so clearly to see the motivations that people want in life, that people want their children to be safe, that people want to live somewhere clean, that they want to have access to good food and water that's not going to make them sick, that they want to be able to breathe clean air. It's so obvious to me. And that there are people who cannot see that.
Yeah.
Cannot see how it could affect them, their loved ones. And even if it didn't affect them or their loved ones, that it could affect someone outside of themselves, especially while simultaneously maintaining that they're a Christian, which is bizarre. Of the dilemma for me has been this type of situation, this type of event, and the things that have led up to this type of an event, to elect a man who has so clearly shown us who he is in every way, is that these people would not piss on me if I was on fire. And it can make you contract your heart space, your heart chakra, right? Because the knee-jerk reaction becomes, all right, it's me and mine.
Yeah.
Period. It's me and mine. Yeah. If you can't see me, if my skin is a barrier for you, if my gender is a barrier for you, then we don't have anything to talk about. You don't have access to me. You don't have access to my gifts. And I think that that's not how we're supposed to be as
I feel
healers.
I think that again, that speaks to like this spiritual being having a human experience, right? Like your spiritual nature is rubbing up against that human experience, right? And so that's why we're here, right? Like that's what we're navigating. That's what we're meant to like try to figure out, right? Right? Otherwise it like wouldn't be interesting. So I think I feel you. Like that's the experience.
Yeah.
Do you want to share your tarot cards that you pulled?
Yeah, so I pulled a few cards for the collective and how we're in this space. It's an interesting spread. Internally, just very like dark and murky, and all of the feelings that we're feeling right now. But there's like new work to be done, and it's calling for like a lot of courage to step into that space, to step into the newness, which also astrologically look, I know y'all think I might be crazy for being like, yes, the astrology says, but even
Lean into it. You know, nobody's thinking crazy. Just talk about it.
earlier in this year of astrologically, like Pluto was like moving
Yeah.
into Aquarius, and that we were shifting out of these old paradigms
yeah.
and these old ways of doing things. And there is this feeling of being rich and mediocre or less than being a white man, that you can show up in these spaces and the world is at your feet. And I feel like that's the old guard. And I feel like that's what we have said was elected
Yeah.
yesterday.
For sure.
And so this like stepping out of this, of just like this very, you know what this feels like? This feels like Dark Night of the Soul for the country.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's like this concept of, well, you explain it. You explain it better than I do, of what the Dark Night of the Soul is.
Yeah, I think it's like this, almost like a nadir of where we get to this like low point of having to examine everything that we stand for, what we believe, what our core values are as individuals, right? When you're in that space. I think we went through it as we were on kind of this spiritual path, and it caused us to kind of question every institution that we were ever taught about, right? Like we just went through and we're like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense anymore to me. And like it can be a very depressing time because you don't feel like you know what truth is anymore. And so, you know, that's why it's considered this dark period that you go through. But then on the other side of it, you kind of come out renewed and on this almost like going into a cocoon, right? And then you come out this metamorphosis, a changed person, or a changed, in this case, country. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I do think that at an all-time high, when I've dipped and dabbled back onto Twitter for a hot second today, is that a lot of people are re-examining what America means, what our neighbors and our fellow citizens like, and everything feels so divided. And I feel like it was going to feel that way no matter what.
Yeah.
Of really examining, like, where do we go from here? Because all of the ideals that they set you up with, and you pledge an allegiance every day in public school, which is very culty, you're doing all of these things, and, you know, well, this is what we stand for as a country. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I've gone to other countries with a very loose sense of what they stand for, and it's exemplary. Like, you see it. You see in, like, France got its own issues. But like beauty and art and pleasure and food
and quality,
like that is very integral to French culture.
How they move,
and you see it.
Yeah.
You see how people want to sit down, like how they eat. We're all over the place.
Yeah.
Like even like something about like how you eat and how you spend time with family and what that looks like. It's like, oh, we just eat fast food, or we just eat junk, or we do this or we do that. Or maybe I eat with my parents, maybe I don't, where it's like other countries are like, no, this is the standard for how we do things.
For sure.
And I feel like we built this country, never mind on the backs of enslaved people, but on a very shaky understanding, a house of cards, a very shaky understanding of like what our values were. And a lot of times the truth of it was like, I think somebody said like, we try to maintain that we are a country with a military that defends itself, but we're really a military operation posing as a country. And so like when you're a military operation just going around colonizing people, like you don't have a set standard. You don't have like loyalty and helping out your fellow man and making sure people are safe and taking care of each other. I haven't seen that shit since 9/11. What's the closest we got to it in the pandemic? Banging them pots and pans.
For the workers.
We weren't paying them. We weren't making sure they were getting time off. We weren't trying to do anything to help them. We weren't making sure they had mental health care. But we sure did go outside and ring a bell.
I think it's very interesting that you're wearing black and I'm wearing white right now.
I am very...
So I just wanted to go back to some things that came up in meditation for me. So I mentioned already the forest fire and what that meant. Other thing that came up as you were talking, it reminded me of it, was this idea around community. And I do think that regardless of what happens in a month or so, I do think that there's going to be a renewed sense of focusing on your micro community, and meaning like what's around you very locally. And hopefully people voted on their local ordinance. And we sure had a lot of them that are really going to have more, I think, of an effect on our life
Yeah.
than the outcome of the presidential election. And so I think that there's going to be a higher importance placed on community and knowing the people who are around you and being more, I would say, sharing of like your talents and your gifts with each other, such that you're supporting each other, not just like the let's go grab a drink and turn up at brunch or whatever, but like more like integrating your lives together a little bit more in a very interdependent way. So I think that's going to happen.
I have been wondering about that for the past couple of years, actually. Yeah. And I think part of it was global supply chain. Like, I know, bear with me for a second, but like, I feel like there's something that happened like global supply chain wise a couple years ago or something, or like the docks shutting down.
Yeah.
Our relationship with China, which is always kind of this balancing act. And I don't know, where it could potentially go from here, crazy. Right? Yeah. And all of the things that we depend on, the plastic goods and everything that comes from China. And like, what if we don't get access to that anymore?
Yeah.
And what if we...
Or the tariffs make it prohibitively expensive for us, right? Because these tariffs are going to get paid by us, which, again, people don't realize.
So then... am I more likely to buy some clothes from Fashion Nova that may have gotten crazy expensive or even worse quality or whatever? Or would I feel better shopping local with people in the community? Or like LA's really good about having like very like community based ways of shopping. Like I feel like people go to the mall, but like the mall culture here is not the same at all as it is in Texas. And, the fruit vendors on the corner and the flower vendors, like that there are these smaller communities. And I was like, is it possible to just shop in your own local community and bartering and like what that looks like?
Yeah, I think we'll see more innovation around that and people will embrace that more for sure. I do want to end on a couple of things before. I know Jen wants to do a meditation to close. We do want to, just as our way of showing up for our community and the folks who support us and listen to us, we want to offer 50% off of any type of reading or service that we offer on our website. If you use the coupon code PEACE, you can book human design, tarot, breathwork, energy healing, or Akashic Records readings with us. So definitely take advantage of that. We have that going until the 15th. And then the last thing I'll just say is in my meditation, this idea came forward and I'm still kind of trying to unpack it and understand it. But it's this idea that we've been conditioned as a society through religion, through popular culture, that our life is limited to, or our consciousness is limited to this lifetime. And so we have this fear of death because we place a scarcity on the life that we have, right? And what that does is it produces a reaction when anything like this election result happens, where we kind of, I say, like make it a catastrophe almost, like in our mind, to where it's like this is threatening our life, and we make it more magnanimous than it actually is because we have this scarcity mindset around life. That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, I'm trying to unpack that and deal with that.
It does. Again, I would counter that with, if you're struggling with hearing that, it's likely, because I struggle with this, it's likely the limitations sometimes of our human understanding of like when you come into some of these concepts, right? Like we were in our 30s and like understanding that time doesn't work the way that it's always worked for us, the way that we were told, right? Of like 1 second after another, 1 hour after another, 1 day, whatever. And so realizing that it's okay to have that resistance to that,
Sure.
of because there's going to be women who are like, but I really want to have children and I don't know if that's
Yeah.
an option for me anymore. Like
Sure.
I've been seeing conversations about that. Or I don't want to have children and I could be in a situation where I want to make a choice that is my right to make.
Absolutely.
And so just giving yourself grace.
Absolutely.
To the extent that it is a struggle for you.
Again, going back to what you were saying earlier, I think it's this struggle between the spiritual and the human condition, right? So, yeah. Shackles and shotguns.
Oh, child. I got a headache.
Want to lead this meditation?
Yes. I need to do it for you and for me. Right. Obviously. I feel like we did good cop, bad cop today.
It was unintentional. I didn't know you were wearing black. I wore white.
And just for a little bit, human design manifestors can hold a lot of anger. It's when they're not in alignment that they're holding anger. And when they are, they're feeling peace. And I am very clearly not in alignment. And I'm mad that Joker got me out of my... No, I'm just kidding. But no, I did want to just take some time to get centered and get still and turn all of those thoughts down for a moment of like, what is going to happen? What's next? Why is this happening? You know, where do I go from here? Do I leave the country? Like all of these things that are
real thoughts,
very real, very normal thoughts that I have had since 5 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. And I was looking up the temporary resident permits in different countries. So
waking up in the morning thinking about so many things. If you know, you know. And so just to take a moment to like get back in your body, get out of your head, to open up your heart, because I feel like anxiety, again, makes us contract, makes us slouch. I've noticed that like my shoulders have been forward and I've just been like sitting so poorly all day today. And it's like my body is having a reaction to the news. Like it's just like I feel under attack. And that's a very normal reaction and an okay reaction, but to just like spend some time here. Okay. So go ahead and flicker your eyes closed. Place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth, exhale your breath, let it go. Inhale in through your nose. Open your mouth, exhale, let something go. Let's do one more together. Inhale through your nose. Hold this breath at the top. Seal your lips closed. Exhale back out through your nose. Allow yourself to breathe normally. Just following your breath. I want you to imagine a green ball of light underneath your hand that's on your heart. See it in your mind's eye, the space in between your eyebrows. Can you expand that green ball of light, watching it grow bigger and bigger until you can visualize your entire chest being lit from within with a green glow. I want you to call in any loved ones, ancestors, people living, anything that will conjure up the feeling of love, of what you hold dear, or you hold to your heart, what's important to you. Maybe you can smile slightly. Take a breath and swallow any saliva you still have sitting in your mouth, clearing out your throat. And imagine each time you exhale that you're letting something go. Something is freeing you from holding you back. Maybe even give your heart a massage as you just create more space to let love and light in. Allow yourself to feel the feeling of gratitude even in this moment, because there's always something to be grateful for. Even if it's as simple as being grateful for taking the time to center yourself amidst the chaos and the uncertainty. You created this space to take care of you. And now I want you to imagine yourself sitting. Maybe you see outside of yourself. Sometimes I see myself sitting crisscross applesauce. And imagine someone pouring liquid gold light from the top of your head, down your shoulders, your back, your front, across your heart, your belly, down to your legs, all the way to your toes. See yourself bathed in this golden light. And set an intention of protection over you, your light body, your energy. And then I want you to imagine a blanket that's reflective. Maybe it's individual reflective tiles. Maybe it's shiny like a piece of foil. Don't question, but just allow that blanket to drape over you. As we continue to protect our energy and our space and our light, our very being. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth, exhale, let something go. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth, exhale, let something go. Till your lips close. Maybe wiggle your toes, your fingers. Reach overhead, take a full body stretch. Again, returning to yourself, giving yourself gratitude for taking the time to ground yourself when everything can feel so shaky. Remembering your light. Remembering to show up as the beautiful person that you are. When you're ready, flicker your eyes open. Come back into the room.
That was fire.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, we needed that. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Whew. I needed that too. It was stuff crack-a-lacking up in there.
Yeah.
And it'll go up into my throat. And a little, it's in your throat chakra and it'll clog all that up.
Got to get it out.
And just making sure that take care of yourselves. I know I'm about to sound like Jerry Springer. Take care of yourselves and each other. But seriously, take care of yourselves and each other. Don't respond to the volatility. Don't respond to the chaos. I put a message up on our stories earlier today of just like keeping your spirits lifted and your energy high.
Mm-hmm.
Or your energy lifted and your spirits high, whatever.
I love it.
But it's not about being delusional or, not paying attention or just ignoring what's going on or spiritual bypassing. It's honoring like, yeah, this is scary, but I'm not going to sit. I can acknowledge that emotion, release it, but I'm not going to sit in it because we collectively are impactful with how we raise our vibrations and how we show up and the frequency in which we show up. When you go to a party, the vibes are off. Yeah. People feeling real aggressive. They start playing Knuck If You Buck. The vibes go off, right? Because of all that dense energy and aggression, and now everybody wants to fight. How are you going to show up in the spaces? How are you going to show up in your home with your loved ones? How are you going to show up on the phone when people are calling you and they're anxious? You have that friend when they call you, you be like, I wasn't even mad, but now I'm mad.
Yeah.
Don't be that person, be the opposite. And this is as much prescription, a to-do list for y'all as it is for me. So
That's real.
We're sending y'all lots of love.
Yeah, and just a reminder, use coupon code PEACE, 50% off any reading with us until the 15th. We love you guys, and hopefully you are doing well.
All right. Namaste.